What are the worst accessories in Terraria? A few weeks ago I asked you guys that question and I got a ton of responses. So today we're going to be looking over what's widely considered the worst accessories in Terraria and determining whether they're really as bad as people say or not. If you want to become a part of videos like this, make sure to subscribe and of course, let's get into it. When thinking about the worst accessory in Terraria, a very common item that comes up is the gravity globe. The gravity globe is an item dropped by Moonlord and effectively it acts the same way that a gravitation potion does, giving you the ability to turn your gravity from up to down, and that's basically it. On the surface, the gravity globe does seem to be a pretty underwhelming or straight up useless item. One of the main reasons somebody would want an item like this is because it makes boss fights way easier, but it's dropped by Moonlord, so you really have nothing to look forward to once you get the item. At the end of the day though, I really don't think the gravity globe is that bad, because it does have a few big benefits. First of all, if you ever do need to use gravitation effects for whatever reason, whether it be building or combat, you no longer need to craft potions. It's probably going to be a pretty rare scenario where you want to use the gravity globe, but if you do, it's there, and it can be pretty useful. In terms of expert mode accessories, it's definitely one of the worst, but as an accessory in itself, it's not that bad. The next accessory to talk about is the honey balloon. This item is crafted with the shiny red balloon and the honeycomb, and it's pretty simple. It gives you all the effects of a regular balloon, but also unleashes a swarm of bees on any enemy that attacks you. That sounds pretty useful on the surface, but honestly, once you actually create the honey balloon and use it, you will see that the amount of damage it does is very small, and it's really not worth crafting. The biggest issue is that the shiny red balloon is much better off being crafted into something like a cloud in a balloon, because then you can craft the bundle of balloons. The bundle of balloons is one of, if not the most useful pre-hard mode accessory in the game, and if you use a shiny red balloon to craft a honey balloon instead, you're basically wasting materials on something a lot worse. And because of that, I would say that yes, the honey balloon is very bad. The next accessory to judge is the Shield of Cthulhu. I know this sounds crazy because a lot of people have it as one of, if not their favorite accessory in the entire game, but a lot of people really don't like the Shield of Cthulhu. The main argument against the Shield of Cthulhu is that it's only really useful during boss fights, and most boss fights can be handled pretty easily without the Shield of Cthulhu. Even a boss as hard as Duke Fishron is actually pretty easy to cheese if you just have the right equipment. Here's the thing though, I don't really think the Shield of Cthulhu is used to maximize your strength or power in a playthrough. The Shield of Cthulhu is simply the most accessible accessory in the game when it comes to making boss fights easier. The only thing I would change about the Shield of Cthulhu is I would add a real dash button. Double tapping to the left or right isn't a huge problem all of the time, but if you do accidentally dash in the wrong direction, it's really annoying. Aside from that small complaint though, I really think the Shield of Cthulhu is a fantastic weapon, so it is not that bad. The next accessory to cover is the step stool. This is one of the easiest accessories to obtain in the game because you can simply find it in an overworld chest if you're lucky. It's also very simple and easy to use. You just hold up and now you have a little bit more range if you want to build up. Honestly, I think we all know that this is one of the most useful accessories in the game. I can't count how many times I've thought, man, I really need to get up an extra block, but I just have no other way to do it. Jokes aside, everybody knows why the step stool is garbage. There's no scenario where you need to go one block up while building or exploring the world where you can't just jump or place a platform. This is probably the worst accessory in the entire game when it comes to pure use, so yeah, it is very bad. The next accessory to cover is the hand warmer. During the holiday season, you might be able to get this accessory from presents with a very low chance. But what does it do exactly? Well, what it does is it makes you completely immune to the chilled and frozen debuffs. But here's the thing, it doesn't really matter. There are 6 enemies in the entire game which can inflict the chilled or frozen debuff. That's it. On top of that, this debuff barely even matters in the first place because it doesn't harm the player that much. At the very least though, you can turn the hand warmer into the Ankh shield, just like every other debuff negating accessory in the game. Nope, the hand warmer is the only debuff negating accessory in Terraria that is not used when crafting the Ankh shield, so it's not even useful in that regard. This is basically as bad as the stepping stool, and there's no way that I'd be able to defend it. Very bad. The next accessory that often gets brought up is the obsidian horseshoe. The obsidian horseshoe is crafted with the lucky horseshoe and the obsidian skull. It gives you immunity to the burn debuff and also negates all fall damage. Unfortunately, that's where all of the benefits end. The obsidian horseshoe has a very similar similar problem to the honey balloon. On its own, it's an okay accessory. It's not bad, but it's not good either. The big issue is that the base ingredients used to craft this accessory could be used to craft way better accessories. You can combine the lucky horseshoe with literally any balloon item in the game, which gives you way better jump height, but also way less fall damage. That's a significantly better use of your accessory slot than the lucky horseshoe plus the obsidian skull, because it's just not that useful most of the time. So just like the honey balloon, I unfortunately have to say that I think the obsidian horseshoe is very bad. The next accessory worth judging is the copper watch. The copper watch is undoubtedly the least useful watch in the entire game, only serving one real function: to tell you the time. Knowing the time isn't a completely useless function, it's just not something that's really worth crafting a copper watch for. The thing is though, I don't really think there's a reason to complain about the copper watch because it's so easy to craft. All you need to make the copper watch is 10 copper bars and 1 chain. Copper is literally the most accessible ore in the entire game, and you can get it at basically any layer of the map, and chains are crafted with like 1 piece of lead. So while the copper watch doesn't have a lot of use cases, it has more than enough considering it's one of the easiest weapons to craft in the game. It's not that bad. The next accessory to judge is the Arctic diving gear. If you didn't know that this item even existed, I don't blame you, because neither did I until making this video. If you combine jellyfish diving gear with ice skates, you then get Arctic diving gear. But what does it really do exactly? Well, not a lot. Arctic diving gear is the ultimate accessory for underwater exploration in Terraria. It's easier to see underwater while you're swimming, you can swim a lot faster, you can jump infinitely in the water, and your breath meter will deplete much slower. Unfortunately, none of this matters because there is no benefit to swimming in Terraria at all. Unless you're farming sharks near the middle of the game to get the mega shark, you have no need to really go underwater in Terraria. The last thing I really think of when I think of Terraria is underwater exploration. The only case I could see you needing Arctic diving gear for is if you did a very niche challenge where your entire world was covered with water, but at that point we're really stretching things. Arctic diving gear sounds alright on the surface because it has so many quote-unquote benefits, but there's really no reason to use it. It's very bad. The final accessory to talk about today is yet another expert mode exclusive drop, volatile gelatin. This accessory is dropped by Queen Slime, and of course all it does is attack enemies periodically. Every now and then it will shoot out gel that can kind of ricochet across the ground and hit enemies, and that's pretty much it. The reason people don't like this accessory is because it does such little damage, even compared to the other expert mode passive damage items. Early hard mode Terraria is when the game starts to get real. It's when enemies have a lot more damage, it's when boss fights are a lot more complicated, and it's when you need weapons or accessories that do insane amounts of damage. Volatile gelatin definitely doesn't do insane amounts of damage, but to be fair, I think people kind of exaggerate how bad this accessory is. If you're trying to get as much damage as possible and really max out your stats, then yeah, never use volatile gelatin. But if you're just going for minor passive damage that can help you out during fights, this can be a pretty decent accessory. In a few playthroughs of mine, I have tried to use volatile gelatin, and honestly, it doesn't really seem to be that bad. It's definitely not my first expert mode accessory choice in Terraria, especially because fighting Queen Slime is just insufferable in itself, but honestly, the volatile gelatin as an accessory is not that bad. And there you have it. Those are my thoughts on what are often considered the worst accessories in Terraria. Alright, bye bye.